Dave, where were you? Why didn't you show up for my wedding rehearsal? Mom has been trying to ring you since 6. She's really angry at you. Really? And exactly where is your mother? She's just gone to drop my dad. Well, my bio dad off at his motel. I didn't miss how Sandy's eyes darted away from mine as she said this. I continued what my stepdaughter's arrival had interrupted, which was removing my certificate of commendation from the wall of the lounge. What are you doing, Dave? Mom cleaned all those frames not 6 weeks ago. I pretty much ignored her and carried the certificate in its frame to the kitchen. Sandy followed me and watched as I wrapped it in bubble wrap before packing it into an already loaded box. She whirled, the skirt of her dress floating around her. For a moment, the sight transported me back to one of 100 dance recitals I'd attended during her childhood. Only now she wasn't dancing for her daddy, she was rushing back to the lounge room. I was just behind her, carrying the completed box. Sandy's mouth was opening and closing like that of a goldfish. I could see it was only now registering with her that all the wall hangings that were uniquely mine were gone from the walls, as were my mementos from the shelves, and if she checked, all my clothes from my wardrobe and tools from the garage. I was out the front door and packing the box on the back seat of my car when I sensed Sandy had followed me and was standing, watching me. She spoke in a small voice, a voice that trembled with the shock of what she was witnessing, an event she'd never even considered before. "You're leaving us?" she asked. "Yes." "You finally noticed. I've been moving stuff out for 4 days now, but neither your mom nor you noticed. That should tell you something, shouldn't it?" "I'm sorry, Dave. I've been a little preoccupied with the wedding. You will be coming, won't you?" "No, I won't. I thought me not attending the rehearsal tonight would have told you that." "But why, Dad?" she asked. "Oh, I'm Dad again, am I? I stopped being called that 3 weeks ago, didn't I?" Sandy shivered, wrapping her arms around herself, and old instincts took over. "Look, come back inside. It's cold out here." "I'll just ring Mum first." "You can try, but I suspect her phone will be turned off," Dave replied. I walked back into the house, into the lounge, and sat on the couch. I heard Sandy on her phone, obviously leaving a voice message for her mum to ring her urgently. She then flopped onto one of the overstuffed armchairs. It seemed to swallow her tiny frame. I waited for her to order her thoughts and start the conversation. From the look on her face, I surmised she was having trouble knowing where to begin. Finally. "Why aren't you coming to my wedding?" she asked. "Surely you must have a clue," Dave asked. "No, none," she replied. I could see from the look of bemusement on her face that the extreme self-centeredness that comes over many brides had totally blinkered my stepdaughter. That saddened me. I hadn't thought her capable of such self-absorption. I gave myself a mental shake. I was in a hurry to move on and didn't have time for this, so took over the running of the conversation. "Sandy, I've loved you since I met you, when you were a chubby little 2-year-old with permanently grubby fingers. I love you still, and depending on how things go from here, may well love you forever." I paused to determine how best to continue, then decided to simply follow the format I'd used in the letter nestled in my pocket that I intended to leave Sandy and her mother. "When I met your mum, she'd just been dumped by your biological father. We've told you the story often enough. He was a drunkard, and after your mum caught him with another woman for the second time, she threatened to leave him if he didn't promise to change. Instead, he up and left you both. He abandoned you." I paused to allow Sandy to add anything. She didn't, choosing to just stare at me. "Your mom lost the house shortly after that because of not being able to make the rent. We met, fell in love, got married, and moved into this house. With my 2 sons, Mike and Richard, our old place just wasn't big enough. Anyway, I digress. I loved your mum, and I loved you. I loved you as if you were my own, the same as I did my biological children. I never hesitated in taking over the responsibility of raising you. I thought I did a pretty good job until a month ago." Sandy must have recognized the tremble in my voice during that last sentence. It brought her back from wherever she was. "You were, Dad. You were the best father a girl could have. Many of my friends were jealous of me. They couldn't believe it when I told them you were only my stepfather." She paused, her hand going to her mouth, covering it, a little shocked by her own words. She realized in approximately 2 seconds what had crept up on me during the last month. I continued with my script. "I liked the guy you chose as a life partner and was the proudest man in the world when you asked me to walk you down the aisle." I paused again to let the knowledge of where this conversation was going to seep into her head. I saw clearly when the bulk of it hit her. She averted her face again. "Yes, Sandy. You never did uninvite me to walk you down that aisle, did you? Your bio dad came back into the picture and whoomp, I'm out. He's in. In both your and your mother's thoughts and conversations, I'm yesterday's hero. Did you know she's been so inattentive that she didn't even realize I never rented a suit for tomorrow, like she asked me to?" Again, I watched as Sandy tried to decide which of the issues I'd raised should be addressed first. I'd seen the look of horror cross her face as she realized she'd forgotten that she'd asked me, the only father she'd known until last month, to give her away on her biggest day. I was sure an apology for that would lead to her retort. I was wrong. Instead, she confirmed her shallowness by trying to justify it all. "Dave, you've met my bio dad. He's larger than life, you must see that. He only came back into my life last month after he heard I was getting married, and it's just been so wonderful. With that flash car of his and the way he's been spoiling me rotten, buying me whatever I looked at twice, he's just... well, what can I say? We both, well, Mom as well, I suppose, just assumed he'd be walking me down the aisle. I'm sorry, I forgot I'd already asked you. It's just that it's been like a whirlwind since he came back." "Swept you off your feet, did he?" I asked. "Yes, that's exactly what he did. You must admit he just oozes charisma. I was saying to Mum just today..." She stopped as she realized what she was about to say and who she was about to say it to. Her face had always been like a shallow pond, where even the smallest puff of wind ruffles the surface, soon replaced by the next bit of breeze. Now was no different. Emotion after emotion flitted across her face as the realization of how much I'd been totally ignored by her in the last month struck. I watched her process it. I even think I saw the precise moment she realized that her mother had been just as bad. All I'd heard in my own house for the previous month was, "John did this," or "John said that." I'd tried to show them how deeply angry by it all I was, but none of it had registered. They were too far under the John spell. Yes, I saw his charisma as well. I could see why he was such a good salesman. What I didn't do, unlike my wife and stepdaughter, was fall for any of it. They were totally blind the 3 times I'd pointed out his broken promises. The final straw was 4 days ago when I found out that I wasn't to walk Sandy down the aisle. That discovery was only made when I overheard them talking about who would be where in the church. My name wasn't even mentioned. Rather than deciding to turn up and hope there was a seat for me in the front pew, I'd started packing. I thought I'd begin letting Sandy down gently so future facts learned didn't come as such a shock. You realize he's still a lying, cheating philanderer, don't you? You know he's still exactly the same jerk that abandoned you and your mum 20 years ago, right? He ran out on you then, and as soon as he gets what he wants this time, he'll abandon you again. Oh, don't be so sour, Dad. Dave? Yes. I'm sorry I forgot to tell you that my bio dad was walking me down the aisle. That's my fault, not his. Don't take it out on him and call him all sorts of nasty names. What evidence do you have that he's still a philanderer? I rehearsed my reply in my head one more time. I dreaded the response I would get to my next question. I knew my 20-year marriage was dead. Had I lost a daughter as well? Oh well, in for a penny, in for a pound, as they used to say. Where is your mum? I asked. I didn't have to hold my breath for long. Sandy's eyes flicked away from me for a long pause. Then they kept flicking back and forth as she asked herself how deep my question was. Had I deliberately linked the question of why I thought her bio-dad was still a philanderer with where her mother was? There was no doubt. Sandy knew. All that remained was the execution. Just so we don't end our 20-year association with a bunch of lies and preserve what memories of a relationship of mutual respect we can, I'll tell you something. I found the condoms in your mom's purse this morning. Purchased, no doubt, with tonight in mind. I had a vasectomy before I met her, so they weren't for me, obviously. And I know you're on the pill, so they weren't for you. I'm glad to say the packet wasn't open, so she probably hadn't slept with him yet. But buying a packet 24 hours in advance does indicate intent, don't you think? I can see by your face that this news doesn't come as a surprise to you, so I can only conclude that you are complicit in your mother betraying me and our wedding vows by sleeping with that slimy little jerk. What did you think? That it was romantic? That, just like a fairy tale, your mummy and daddy were getting back together and you could play happy families? Start married life with a Porsche in the driveway rather than the Nissan I bought you? Sandy opened her mouth as if to answer. I held up my hand, cutting her off. Don't bother. Forget, I asked. The answer doesn't matter. That fact that you were aware and said and did nothing to let me know ends our relationship right here and now. I rose, stepped toward her, pulled her to her feet, and hugged her. Stifling back all the emotion I hadn't already vented that day and over the month previous, I said my final words to her. I loved you. With that, I walked out of her life. Glancing back from the door, I saw the look of utter devastation marring her pretty face as she stared after me. Tears streaked down her cheeks. Gulping and gasping, she frantically scrabbled for her phone. I guessed it was in the desperate hope that her mother had turned hers back on, that her mom hadn't physically committed adultery yet, that her mother could use that as a reason to convince me to forgive her. All so Sandy wouldn't lose her other dad. The dad, whose desperate cries over the last month for his wife to stop falling out of love with him had gone completely unheeded, while she refell for a glib salesman with a history. I shrugged. Whether my wife had physically crossed the line or not, the protections I'd stumbled on purely by accident that morning were enough for me. I'd actually been planning to move out for just a little while to show the magnitude of my displeasure over the events of the last month. The morning discovery told me I'd misjudged how bad things were and pushed me to accept, over a series of painful hours, that the move was permanent. I examined my conscience. It was completely clear. I jumped in my car and drove away. Some of the following is a fact, some are hearsay. The story isn't complete without both. I'd spent some time the day of the rehearsal trying to find out what motel the jerk was staying at. My motivation? I wanted to witness my wife's transgression personally, to harden my heart to do what I knew had to be done. My efforts were in vain. Instead, I opted for Plan B. After leaving Sandy, I parked down the road from my house of 20 years and turned the lights off. Sure enough, less than a minute later, my former daughter came screaming past in her car. A herd of elephants could have followed her unobserved. She drove straight to a particular motel and dashed straight to a particular room. I wasn't too far behind her with my trusty old SLR camera with its zoom lens. With Sandy's shouts, it was her mother who opened the door. I was mentally prepared, or so I thought, for the sight that greeted me. Strangely, it wasn't the sight of Laura in a hastily thrown-on motel dressing gown, complete with messed-up hair, with her ex-husband in boxers standing behind her that bothered me. No. What got me was the look of panic that suffused her face as Sandy spoke. I'd spent 20 years protecting her from emotions like that. It is habit-forming. I threw my camera onto the passenger seat, turned off my phone, and drove off into the night after Sandy was admitted to the room and the door closed. My knowledge of events in the immediate aftermath of the above was garnered from various sources. The wedding did occur the next day, but at 6 p.m., not the scheduled 10 a.m. First, the mother of the bride had to be located. She'd spent the night looking frantically for me and fallen asleep, exhausted. Next, valuable time was spent trying to locate the biological father of the bride, but he'd done a runner. As I'd told Sandy, as soon as he got what he wanted, he was off. I did wonder at his motivation for it all. My research on him showed he and his second wife never had children. Maybe he wanted to experience walking his child down the aisle. Some people just like to collect life's experiences. My guess is that he saw Laura was still an attractive woman and wanted her. A trip down memory lane, perhaps. Or maybe it was simply an ego trip. Being a self-centered personality, he just turned on the charm and pursued her till she gave in. Just like I'd warned her he was doing. When the going got hot and he'd emptied his deeds, he was off. It was possibly the most expensive intimacy of his life. Before he'd had the chance to get home, several photos were in his wife's email inbox. She dumped him, enforcing her prenup with extreme prejudice. She ended up taking over her father's company without him at her side. Rumor had it that he was found badly beaten, with ruined balls, in an alley a week or so later. Rumor also had it that his father-in-law always looked after his only daughter and never liked the jerk. Whatever. By the time the bridal party concluded he was gone, they'd missed the window at the church. The vicar kindly rescheduled for 6 p.m. I'll never know at what point Laura found all the stitching had been unpicked on the dress she planned to wear to the event. It would have fallen to pieces in her hands, just as our marriage had done at her hands. I ignored all contact from Laura and Sandy as I continued the process of falling out of love with both of them. They both bombarded my voicemail with pleas for me to come back, but that bridge was well and truly burnt. As expected, Laura left a long message to say she'd just gone into John's motel room after dropping him off, and all they'd done was talk. The protections in her purse had been for a novelty gag at the reception. 2 photos sent via email unequivocally revealed those to be the lies they were. The first was of her standing in the doorway of the motel, with her left breast exposed in the hastily tied dressing gown. The second was a zoom of the same photo, highlighting what was almost certainly evidence of her infidelity. A simple reply of sorry prompted me to ask her, for the sake of preserving our memories, not to contact me again. She respected that on the whole, and now just wishes me well every now and then. Family gossip tells me she's having trouble moving on and still hasn't dated. I made a minimum offer in the divorce, and she accepted it with good grace. What about me? I holed up at my younger son's house for a while, with my car hidden in his garage. He and my eldest also refused calls from their stepmother. They could see how hurt I was. Sandy's new groom did hunt me down successfully, and I agreed to talk as I liked him. He convinced me that Sandy had tried to talk her mother out of her planned tryst, but John's spell was too powerful. We still catch up occasionally. Apparently, the relationship between mother and daughter is still strained. Whether from Sandy blaming Laura for causing the loss of both her fathers, or from her new husband's reticence to allow his mother-in-law in the house, I'll never know. I will probably mostly forgive her one day. My sons already have, and her new husband is begging me to. If the hurt wasn't still fresh, I may have been devastated at the story of Sandy walking alone down the aisle of the church, while her mother, already seated, looked on, haggard, with tears still cutting runnels in her makeup. The groom couldn't remember if there were 1 or 2 empty seats next to her on the front row. My interest was purely academic anyway. In the time between the scheduled and actual weddings, he'd pumped Sandy pretty hard on her actions and thoughts surrounding her mother's mistake. He eventually concluded it might serve him well to have a bride who'd had the consequences of infidelity smashed into her face, and threw all his energy into getting all the guests back for the delayed ceremony. Word got out, however, and apparently Laura lasted less than half an hour at the reception. The accusing stares from both sides lanced her soul. Today, I still wonder if she was more sorry for losing me or completely ruining her daughter's big day. Me? I moped around for several months, completing the process of grieving but fearing I'd never trust a woman ever again. Then I met Belinda. Ironically, she was the widowed mother of Richard's fiancée, and I met her when she came over to pre-plan her daughter's wedding 12 months after my split. The connection was instant, and matters of trust were soon relegated to the scrap heap. I'd been one of those people who rubbished the idea of soulmates until I met mine. I examined myself for any residual feelings. There were close to none. The process, started by Laura, was complete. What the hell? Carpe mulieris. Seize the woman. Within 4 weeks, I'd moved into Belinda's place, and I knew this was the woman I'd grow old with. Fortunately, her children welcomed me into her family with open arms. Today, her daughter asked me to walk her down the aisle. Even that didn't dent the inane grin that makes my face ache most days. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. My name is Marty Sanders, and I have been with the same company for 10 years. I married my wife, Marcy, right after we finished college. It was a typical romance, and getting married felt like the natural thing to do. I wanted lots of kids, but Marcy wasn't interested in being a mother. I thought everything was fine with our relationship until a few weeks ago, when I started noticing the signs. At first, I thought I was imagining things and tried to stay cool about it. The little things that were bothering me did not go away, and I finally decided I had to verify her infidelity or put it aside. It just seemed like Wednesdays were significant, so that was my target date for checking things out. I went to work as usual that morning, but before leaving, I placed my GPS on the back floor of Marcy's Beamer. I turned the auto shutdown off and put in fresh batteries that would hold for at least 14 hours. Work went as usual, except I left a few hours early and swung by the house. Her car was there, so I parked down the street and went back and retrieved the GPS from the back seat. It worked perfectly. She had left the house and I had a nice track to exactly where she went. I set the unit on the center console and took off on my treasure hunt. About 20 minutes later, I found myself in the airport Holiday Inn parking lot. The counter guy at the hotel seemed friendly enough, and I mentioned that my wife had been there earlier at a business meeting and had left a pair of expensive sunglasses in the room. I asked if he could check the lost and found, but I didn't know the room number. Taking a long shot, I gave him her name and asked which room she had rented. I got a weird look and a small smile from him as he checked the computer. He said she had room 417 and checked out about 2 p.m. The room hadn't been cleaned yet, but I could check with the maid that was doing that floor. I thanked him with a 20 and went looking for the maid. The maid was as agreeable as the desk clerk, and another 20 got me in with no problem. There was nothing much exciting in the room except dirty sheets, wet towels, and 3 used condoms in the trash can. I took the condoms in one of the tumbler wrappers and went back down to the lobby. I was glad that the clerk was friendly and decided to try another long shot. I pushed a C note across the counter and asked if I could get a copy of the surveillance tape for that floor. He didn't make a copy. He just gave me the original and popped a new tape in the recorder. I thanked him. He smiled knowingly, and I was on my way home. At home, everything was normal. Of course, I said nothing, and she did not indicate that anything had happened. I was tempted to make some cutesy inquiries, but decided against it. I wasn't ready to tip my hat yet. In my mind, I was busy planning my next step. After Marcy turned in, I quietly played the surveillance tape, and now I knew who the guy was. I checked the credit card files in the den before turning in. The MasterCard bills for the last 3 months were missing. Marcy usually pays the household bills, and after making the MasterCard payments, she destroyed the bills, so I had no record of the room rentals. I went to work as normal the next day. The center of Marcy's affections was Kevin Chapman. He was a middle manager in the company and appeared to be an okay guy. I was able to pull up his personnel records and soon knew everything there was to know about him. I didn't know how or where they met and really didn't care. I only wanted to get it over with. Kevin was married and had 2 small children. His wife, Janet, was short and had dark hair. She was a little on the chunky side, but still had a nice shape. I had seen her at a few company functions and found her to be attractive even though she didn't fit the mold of a beauty queen. Cassie, my secretary, was a little suspicious of my investigations, and with an impish grin offered me whatever help I might need. It is hard to keep secrets from good secretaries. I asked her to see if she could get copies of my wife's MasterCard bills and a call log of my wife's cell phone for the last 3 months. I got the feeling everybody in the company knew what was going on, but me. Later that day, I found a business card on my desk for a female divorce lawyer. I don't know where it came from, but I put it in my pocket for future reference. At home that night, everything was normal. I mentioned the company picnic on Saturday, and she said she was looking forward to it. We went to bed at separate times as usual, and there was no intimacy as usual. Friday was a slow day at work. The high point of the day was that Cassie had the MasterCard records and Marcy's cell phone log. She also had a copy of Kevin's cell phone log. I had never mentioned his name to her. I felt like a humiliated husband. Before the end of the day, Cassie sat down and said that I should make an effort to talk to Janet Chapman at the picnic if possible, and also to try and talk with Jake Williamson, the company's CEO. She winked as if to say everything was going to be okay. That night I sat and watched TV alone while Marcy read a book. The wheels were turning. It was time to do something. Which brings us back to the picnic. The beer was flowing and everybody was having a great time. But me. Bob Sever, a close working friend, started ribbing me about being a party pooper. I tried to joke it off with little success. "I hope you are in a better mood at next year's picnic, Marty," Bob squawked. "I don't think I'll be at next year's picnic, Bob." That got everyone's attention. "What is going on, Marty? Are you leaving the company?" he asked. "No, I think I will be in jail next year at this time," I answered. There was a mixture of gasps and giggles at that. Everyone at the table was asking for an explanation at the same time. They couldn't tell if I was joking or serious, but they were all waiting for an answer. "Well, Bob, somebody in the company has been having intimacy with my wife, and very shortly I intend to kill him, his wife, and his kids. I will not put up with this stuff." There was silence around the table. Kevin was sitting at the far end. I avoided looking directly at him, but I could see he was disturbed. Suddenly, Bill Thomas chimed in. "Well, in that case, Marty, can I have your boat?" That got a laugh from most people and took the chill off the conversation. "Bill, the boat is worth over 10 grand, and you can have it for 4,000, I answered. After a short pause, Bill said, "If you are serious, Marty, it's a deal." "Fine. I'll get it cleaned up for you and you can pick it up tomorrow at about noon. Stan, if you still want those ping golf clubs, you can have them for $100, okay?" Stan Franks nodded and said he would pick them up Sunday also. About this time, Kevin got up from the table and went to the side of the yard by a bush. I saw him get out his cell phone and hit a speed dial. At the same time, across the yard, Marcy was digging in her purse for her phone. They talked for a few moments, and then Marcy saw me looking her way and quickly hung up. By the time Kevin came back to the table, I had also sold my truck to a guy in the shipping department. It was turning out to be a good picnic. I was getting ready to call it a day so I wouldn't put a damper on everyone's fun when I remembered what Cassie said. I walked over toward Jake, who was busy with some visiting biggies. I decided I didn't want to interrupt and turned to walk away. Jake grabbed my arm, leaned over, and said, "Don't worry, I got your back." I wasn't sure what he meant, but it sounded good. As I walked over to tell Marcy I was leaving, Janet, with the 2 tykes, sort of bumped into me. Before I could say anything, she quietly blurted out, "We need to talk. I will call you. Don't call me." I told Marcy I was leaving. She could stay and get a ride with someone else or go with me. She left with me. There was no conversation all the way home or after we got there. I felt very satisfied. I was up bright and early the next day, feeling a little confident now. I got the set of golf clubs out and cleaned them up a little for Stan. He got a good buy, and he knew it. I washed the truck, threw on a quick wax job, and vacuumed it out. I didn't have to do this, but it helped to keep my mind off my problems. The boat was a major project, so I saved it for last. I figured I could kill the entire morning getting everything shipshape for Bill. While I was outside, keeping busy, I could see Marcia burning up the phone lines. I'm sure Kevin and her had a lot to discuss. I wished I had come up with a way to record the phone conversations, but then I figured it didn't matter anyhow. Stan picked up the clubs, and I went inside and made a sandwich and got a beer. I spent over an hour with Bill explaining the boat wiring and fuel system and loading him up with all the accessories. I made him take all my fishing stuff also. Hell, I wasn't going to have a boat I didn't need the fishing gear. It was a busy day. After a quick shower, I dressed and asked Marcy if she wanted to go get a bite to eat. She turned me down and offered no excuse. I felt it was interesting that she never once asked about the boat, the truck, or the golf clubs. I got the feeling she was trying to avoid the subject altogether. Fine with me. I had a great meal, went to a local watering hole, and relaxed the rest of the night. Marcy was asleep when I got home and was still in bed when I left for work in the morning. I stopped at the International House of Pancakes on the way to work. It was something I normally didn't do, but I felt frisky. I took my time, read the newspaper, and sauntered into work at about 10 a.m. Everybody appeared to be overly friendly and smiling more than normal. Cassie sort of snickered and got me some coffee I did not need. "What the hell is going on?" I asked. "Well, today you are considered to be a celebrity of sorts. Your performance at the picnic has spread all over the company." "And that is a good thing?" I asked. Cassie smiled. "Kevin was in very early this morning and asked for an immediate transfer. He didn't offer any explanation, but Mr. Williamson had already notified personnel that if he did come in, they were to transfer him to the Baltimore office immediately. Kevin cleaned out his desk and was gone within the hour." "Damn. I didn't think I was that convincing, but it is sort of funny," I answered. "Everybody said he looked like a scared rabbit," said Cassie. "Did he take his wife and kids with him?" I asked. "No, he sent them to her folks' place in Maine. I understand she was a little angry about the whole thing. She said she was going to call me and sounded like it was important. I don't know what to do now. I guess I'll just wait," I answered. Things at home were quiet and cold. We conversed only when necessary. Marcy never brought up anything that was going on, nor did I. It was like we were bending over backward to avoid the subject. I never went to bed that night, just slept on the couch. The next day, I started closing out the credit cards and bank accounts. I was doing everything possible to separate my financial accounts and hers. I left her one credit card that she had opened in her name alone. I got $1,000 in cash and put it in an envelope to give to her when the time came. The checking account and ATM were closed down. The Beamer was in her name, but the insurance was in mine. I canceled the insurance. She had her cell phone, so there was nothing to do there. Just before lunch, Janet called. I met Janet and the kids at a nearby McDonald's. It was her choice and a good one with the kids. She was royally angry because Kevin had insisted she go to Maine to stay with her parents and gave her no explanation. She called Kevin's secretary Monday morning and found out about his transfer. Somehow it came out that I had threatened to kill Kevin, her, and the kids, and Kevin made her go to Maine to protect her. Janet thought it was nonsense and packed up and came right back home. She asked me if I was going to kill her, and we both snickered. Then the conversation got serious. "We both know what is going on," she said. "I want to know what hard evidence you have to share, and I will tell you what I have. Okay?" I gave her a sincere smile. I have 3 months of telephone logs for Marcy's cell phone and Kevin's. I also have the credit card records for the rooms they rented at the airport Holiday Inn. I have a video of them entering and leaving the room with the time and date. And I have 3 used condoms. Your turn." She seemed happy. I can offer voice recordings of several very vivid phone conversations, and I have about 40 good photos of the two of them doing what they do best. Don't ask how I got them. I also have an excellent lawyer who is willing to take both cases together if you are agreeable. I left her card on your desk, but you didn't call her yet." I took the card out of my pocket and set it on the table. She smiled again. I actually enjoyed having the kids around, and being with Janet was fun, even under these circumstances. We stayed a while till the kids got tired of playing and then went our separate ways. I agreed to meet with the lawyer as long as she was there also. That afternoon, she brought an envelope with copies of her stuff to the office, and I gave her copies of everything I had. We had an appointment set up with the lawyer the next morning. The evening at home was uneventful, as usual. The lawyer was good. She had checklists and worksheets for everything. It did not look like we were going to have any problems with the divorce or settlements at all. I asked Janet if she would like to go out for supper that night, and she agreed if she could get a sitter for the kids. I didn't mind them coming along, but it was her choice. Marcy said nothing as I dressed for my date. I offered no explanation and just walked out the door. The evening was great. We talked about everything but the divorce. She was fun to be with. I had her home early and couldn't resist giving her a peck on the cheek at the door. Marcy was in bed when I got home. I spent the next day getting caught up with all the work I had let slide at the office. Cassie did a great job covering for me, but it still had to be done. That evening was my time to bring everything to a close. After supper, I cleared off the kitchen table. I spread some newspaper out and started to clean my old Army 45. Marcy watched for a while and then walked over to the table. "What the hell are you doing?" she barked. Without looking up, I replied, "I have some unfinished business to take care of in Baltimore." "What do you mean, unfinished business?" "It's personal," I answered. She paced back and forth for a few seconds. "I don't want you to go. You are going to do something stupid, and I believe you should think about it." "I am sorry. I have to do it. Are you afraid I might end up in jail or something?" I questioned. She leaned over the table. Her lower lip was quivering in anger. "I don't care what happens to you, just don't hurt him. You hear me? Don't hurt him." I just sat and looked at her. I was sure now that what I was doing was the right thing. She sat down and aggressively leaned toward me. "I don't know what it is you think is going on that is causing you to act so nasty, but I suggest you cut it out. People are saying that you think I am cheating on you. You have no reason to believe that anything is going on, so quit acting like a jerk." I pushed the gun over to the side, moved my briefcase in front of me, and opened it. "Here are your cell phone logs for the past 3 months. Would you like to guess how many calls you made to him during that time? This is a copy of his cell phone calls. Guess how many calls a day he made to you?" She sat back a little. "Cell phone calls don't mean anything." I pushed the cassette tape in front of her. "Here is a recording of several intimate phone conversations that the two of you had. Would you like to listen to them, or do you already know what is on them?" There was no reaction. I put down the credit card records. "You even paid for the hotel rooms. Wow, that was nice of him. 14 hotel rooms in 3 months, I'm impressed. Did his wife know about this?" She seemed to lose a little of her swagger, but she appeared to be getting madder at me. I pushed the VCR tape across the table. "Here we have a nice video of you and him going into the motel room and coming out 3 hours later, all with time and dates. To top it all off, I have 40 nice photos of the two of you with your clothes off trying out every position in the book." I spread the photos across the table so she could be sure I wasn't lying. She glanced at the pictures. After a pause, she said, "Okay, stop it. You are confusing me. I can't think straight when you are attacking me like this." There was no remorse. There was no sorry. There was no fear. The only emotion still showing was anger. I put everything into the briefcase, including the gun. She sat silent, not moving. I grabbed my coat and started toward the door. "I am going to a motel for the night. When I get back, I expect you and all your things to be gone. If there is anything left of yours, I will ship it to you. Your Discover card is still good, but the rest of the credit cards have been canceled. Here is $1,000 in cash. I suggest you use part of it to get auto insurance on your car. If you are gone when I come back, I will not have to make my trip to Baltimore. I do not want to see you in or near this house again. Do you understand? I laid the envelope with the cash on the table. "Where the hell am I supposed to go?" she shouted. "Baltimore is nice this time of year." I snickered on the way out. Janet and I had lunch the next day. I insisted she bring the kids this time. I enjoyed having them around even though they weren't mine. I told her about the events that occurred the night before. She was trying not to be judgmental, but considering the situation and her involvement, it was difficult. After lunch, I drove by the house to make sure Marcy was gone. She did a good job moving out and left everything neat and clean. It was hard to tell she ever lived there at all. Later, I called the landlord from work and told him I would be moving out at the end of the month. It was okay. I didn't need a big house by myself. I started looking for apartments in the paper. When I arrived at work the next day, Cassie told me Marcy had moved in with Kevin. I didn't ask how she knew this, but I was curious. The lawyer called later to let me know the papers for both divorces were ready and would be delivered together on Saturday morning by messenger. The divorce would be final in 90 days, and she was expecting no problems. Cassie told me that I was being ordered to take a 10-day vacation as she put a travel agency folder down in front of me. It held 4 airline tickets to Orlando, a week's stay at a park hotel, and tickets to the park for the entire week. It was all compliments of Jake Williamson. 3 months later, the divorce was final. I moved in with Janet, and life was great. A week later, Kevin was let go. He had alimony payments, child support payments, car payments, and no job. Marcy had gone to work in the meanwhile. Somebody took her Beamer for a joyride and trashed it. She didn't have any insurance. Shortly thereafter, Kevin left to get a job in Dallas and forgot to tell Marcy where he was. Good luck to both of them. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.